What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Tuesday Night Hang. Where's my camera? There it is. I moved things around. I'm discombobulated. For those that don't know, my name is Stephen Wright, and I'm going to be holding it down here for our Tuesday Night Hang tonight. As you know, we decided that we were taking 2 weeks off. This is week number 2 of that 2 weeks off. This is what my week off looks like. So tonight what we've got is episodes 6 through 10 and some of my favorite moments from those episodes. The first couple episodes were really cool, and it was kind of a learning experience getting everything going, and learning this whole new streaming platform, and it's definitely been a learning process for me. But once we really got into it and started to dig in, it became a little bit more fun and became more of a hang for me, as well as more than just trying to make it work. But episodes 6 through 10, we had a lot of cool things. We had Mark Rivera, great Mark Rivera from the Billy Joel Band. And we also had some of Billy's more behind the scenes cast and crew, so to speak. We had Ricky Chainsaw LaPointe, and we had Wayne Williams on as guests. And for me, that was really cool because I think it's really interesting for people to be able to see and hear the behind the scenes things. So that was a really cool thing as well. Had a few interesting things, interesting Maynard stories, Maynard Ferguson stories, some more Billy stories. We even had some previously unreleased footage from 2004 in Stockholm that we'll revisit with Carl playing with the Maynard Ferguson band. And some other stuff. We got some mouthpiece talk. We've got some trumpet talk. I'll be hanging here with everybody in the chat. And otherwise, if you guys want to reach out, I'll be in the comments. We're on Facebook, we're on YouTube, we're on Twitter, Twitch, Periscope. We're live everywhere. So send me your questions, and if they aren't answered tonight, they'll definitely be answered in the future. And without further ado, here is the best of episodes 6 through 10 of the Tuesday Night Hang with Carl Fischer.
What's happening? As you see, I'm like pretty stupid again. Welcome to the Tuesday Night Hang. I'm going to be your cook tonight. We'll make some gumbo. All things musical and majestical. Majestical, is that even a word? Oh my God. I got issues. See what happens when you get quarantined for how long? How long is it now? Anyway, welcome. Looking forward to seeing my friend tonight, Mr. Stephen Wright from LaGrange, Illinois. How about a hand and say hello to my friend Stephen. What's up, Stephen?
How's it going, everybody?
This hat, man. I ordered this hat. It's got. I'm a Giants fan. Can you read that?
Oh, you got it out. Charlie, where's Charlie at?
This is for Charlie, man. This is for Charlie Belcher. He's like, I need more Tampa Bay stuff, and I'm definitely not a Brady guy, being a Giant guy, but I have to give it to Brady. He's pretty amazing, man. I'm not dogging his talents. Mm-hmm. I'm just saying that Brady playing for Tampa is going to be. It's going to be interesting. We'll see. But Charlie, we did a thing. What Steven's referencing is this Charlie Belcher. What was it? Fox, right, Steven?
Yeah, it's Fox in Tampa area.
Tampa. Yeah, it was great. Charlie Belcher's awesome. He did a nice spot on. We did a Sunshine City Brass tune down by the Riverside, and he actually put that on his show with Fox. But he's like, you're too New York out. You got too much New York stuff going on. So I kind of had to change gears for him. So that's for you, Charlie, if you're there. Hopefully he's checking it out. Ladies and gentlemen, without further ado and having me ramble on, let's say hello to my man Mark Rivera. Welcome.
Hey, Carl, how you doing, man?
I'm doing good, brother. You are you getting thunderstorms too, or what? Tornadoes?
No, I hear what Steven's going through. I'm like, you know, the great Northeast is pretty chilled. You know, we had a nice warm day. I was in the pool, swam my 70 laps. You know, and you saw how I looked last night. Yesterday, I wore pants tonight for the interview.
Glad, you know, I'm not wearing pants.
But hang.
I'm wearing shorts. Yeah, for the hang.
Oh man.
Oh man. Well, I'm glad to hang with you, man. It's been way too long. Yeah, it's definitely been way too long.
Amen.
I never even asked you this, but this is a common question. What made you pick alto sax when you first, you know, what drew you to that?
My Uncle Vinny. My Uncle Vinny was my godfather. Of course, everybody has an Uncle Vinny. They were like, I had like 7 Vinnies in my family. Vincent John, Vincent Lewis. But I had my Uncle Vinny was my godfather, my mom's brother, and he played in a local band with my cousin Vinny's father, my Uncle Joey. Vinny, Joey, Jimmy, and of course, if your name was Jimmy, your name was really Vincent. You know.
Was Johnny Boombots there too? Was Boombots over there? Johnny Boombots? Hey,
Bobby Bacalao, but yeah. Yeah, my Uncle Vinny played saxophone in a band with my Uncle Joe, and
really,
yeah. And as it turns out, when I was a kid, my Uncle Vinny worked at the Red Hook Project. He was the superintendent of the Red Hook Project, and every week a truck would come by and some stuff would fall out the back of the truck. How convenient. And one of these weeks, clarinet and a saxophone fell out the back of the truck.
Really?
So I think my father paid $50 for a Buffet Kremlin saxophone and clarinet.
Oh my God!
And the clarinet's probably worth a few grand now, frankly. Right. But that was my first instrument, and my Uncle Vinny taught me for a while. And about maybe a month later, he said, "Now he's got to go see somebody else. He's better than me." So
really. Wow.
His sound was like, he played very infrequently. So, and I practiced in the hallway, drove my mother and my grandmother crazy, but that's how it started.
Wow. And so that was clarinet and alto sax or tenor? It was alto, right?
Alto sax is my first thing. And actually still I love playing alto most of all.
Yeah, your tenor playing is wonderful. I mean, there's nothing wrong with any of your instruments, but it's amazing because I look back at older stuff of you playing and blowing on alto. You could tell you have this kinship with it, man. The tenor too, man. It's funny because each voice you have on each instrument is a different voice, if that makes sense.
Yeah. That's absolutely. And I thank you. Where I go on an alto is just like it's like home base for me. It's just I don't know. It's very natural. Yeah.
Well, what made you go into playing tenor? How did you make that move, and what made you do that?
It got to be the instrument that people wanted to hear. When I was with Foreigner, they wanted a tenor saxophone. The little bits of urgent that I played, sure. That was definitely tenor bit. So, what's that?
You picked it up and played it. Just you had a need to play that solo, and you got it done.
Well, I'll tell you about a quick story about picked it up and played it. When I was with Sam and Dave, I was like 19.
Wow.
And we had a rehearsal at Carol Music. It's going back a long time. And the musical director, this guy Ben Little.
Okay.
I went down there with my alto. I learned the part. I learned that. I knew all the
Soul Man and all that stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. I'd already been playing all those R&B tunes with my cousin Vinny in that band.
Sure.
So now I'm with Sam and Dave, and so we play the stuff on alto, and I'm digging it. I'm playing great. And Ben Little, 5x5 Black Beauty goes, "You blow, Barry." I said, "Sure, man. Sure, no problem." I'd never touched the Barry sax in my life. And I went to Ponte's Music because it was down the street from Performing Arts. My old man, I convinced him to let me have $100 to rent it. I went home and shedded that thing for like about 6 hours. Now it's about 8 o'clock at night, and I'm blowing this thing up and down. The next day, I get the rehearsal. I must have weighed about 130 pounds. The Barry was like half my weight. And so I learned the tunes. So now I'm playing alto, playing the Barry, I'm digging it, and everything's going to be great. Next thing, now you got to learn the steps. I'm like, oh, okay. So I got to remember, I got to go bend down, and the trumpet's going over my head.
Yeah.
And the next day we opened up for Ray Charles at the Schaefer Festival. Yeah.
Oh, cool. Wow,
yeah.
man.
And Ben Little called in a bomb scare because he was asleep in the U-Haul band. I swear to God.
Really?
And then the next thing I know, we're on our way to Alabama to someplace.
That's a great
crazy
story.
stuff, man.
So you just jumped in with both feet, you know? I mean, there's no.
Absolutely. That's the only way to do anything. You talk about, you know, I'm talking to some friends about, you know, some things that we're in the middle of, and they say fear, and I say, well, fear is, you know, gets a bad rap. Fear gets a really bad rap because everybody thinks, oh, I'm scared. Actually, you know, have you ever gone on stage without that little butterfly in your stomach and that little extra thing? Yeah. And we got to have that. I mean, if you lose that, you got to check your pulse, in my opinion.
Yes.
And but I just want to touch on one thing.
This is kind of. I want to hear it. I'm interested in it.
Yeah. So basically, we got a hold of this, and it's from a concert that was in 2004 in Stockholm. And this particular clip that you're talking about is from Reggie Watkins' arrangement of Girl from Ipanema. So, and like you said, I think only a handful of people that weren't at this concert have ever even seen or heard this. So
this is, oh man, I got some stories about this gig. I want to see it again, but I'm pretty sure now, because I did hear the solo, just, you know, you played it for me over the phone, and I'm like, yeah, let's try it. But yeah, let's play it because I think I got a whole bunch of stories about this gig.
Cool. All right, here we go.
Carl Fischer. Further ado, Wayne Williams and Chainsaw, welcome them, please.
Hey everybody, how you doing?
Hi folks.
The guys, what's happening?
Hey, before we get too far, I just want to know how much dancing you did when you were on the Moving Out show.
I'll show you.
I've seen your moves on stage.
We've seen some moves.
Yeah,
I've seen them.
Well, you know, it's the dancing is only half the thing. It's the leotard that gets them going.
Those bicycle shorts you wear up there.
Yeah.
You know, if you bought your real size, it wouldn't be so bad.
Well, you know, it fit me 10 years ago, Chainsaw. Come on, bro. At least I got sleeves.
Billy Elliot.
Those sleeves.
I love Chainsaw. Everything he has, man, you know, he makes it chainsaws. You know, so why do you do the sleeveless thing? Is it cool?
So nobody steals my stuff.
You gotta show the ink off, man. He's got all that ink. He's got to let it hang out, man.
Where you calling from, Chainsaw? You were in Orlando, correct?
I'm in on the north side of Orlando.
Yeah.
Down in Florida. And right up against the Wekiva Springs State Park.
That's a big word.
There's probably a bear in my yard right now.
Yeah, he's on the video conference.
That's why I'm up here. Yeah.
Arr, bears and tigers. And what about the tiger over there? You're not in Austin no more, Wayne, are you? Where are you at?
No, I'm out in West Texas right now. Circling back, I've been to the chainsaw compound. It's quite spacious, and
Look at it.
It is kind of wild kingdom out there. It definitely is.
Yeah. The Bushwood Estate. Bushes everywhere.
Look at your music room, man. That is just.
It is. It's a Sam Ash. He's living in
I got a few things
guitar
back
center.
there.
Two tree, and the thing I failed to mention too is, you got 34 and 36 years with Billy, but you basically anybody can name an act, and you guys have been with them. Bruce, Tom Petty with Wayne, obviously Chainsaw with Bruce. Not Hornsby. It was that guy from Jersey, right? The other Bruce.
Yeah.
And Steely Dan with Wayne, and these guys are the A-team. So
we've probably gotten fired by all of them at one point. I'm sure we got ran off by a bunch of them anyway.
We weren't asked back by quite a few.
Crosby, Stills, and Nash. I remember the Crosby, Stills, and Nash concert Chainsaw you had me come to at Jones Beach Theater.
Yep.
Forget it, man. Chainsaw hooked it up. I'll let you explain it because I got my own version. I want to hear your version.
Well, we play in Jones Beach, and there's water right in the back, and Carl has a boat, and we're like, Carl, come bring the boat to the beach, and you could pull up to the back and tie off and come to the show. So I talked to the promoter
Bruce,
there, who's our
Bruce.
buddy.
Yep.
And he gave you the lowdown on how to get in there, and
Snuck it in, man.
snuck
The
it in the
ultimate
back
parking
and
path.
I snuck in under the boom
pulled up
and
to the
everything.
back behind catering there and tied up the boat. And, we did the show, and Carl was, up on the side of the stage, up on the platform, and laid down and took a little nap during the show. And then
I slept through the whole show. That's what I'm trying to.
He was drunk.
And then as soon as
probably drunk.
I don't remember the show. I slept through it.
I was done packing up my cases. I ran off the deck of Carl's boat, and I think we pulled out a bottle of rum, and I missed all the truck loading
A bunch of pirates.
extravaganza and barely made it to the buses as they were pulling out. So it was a good night hanging on the boat after the show.
Yeah. Now Ricky's a great fisherman, and he's a captain also, and so we have that. And Wayne just laughs at us. Wayne actually he's the conductor of our baseball game, our baseball thing.
Boy.
And Wayne's got us hooked in the
Well, I miss that now, guys. I'm missing the baseball now.
totally.
Oof.
And it'd be
Among
nice
other
to be
things.
sitting in the stands right now.
There you go. Representing. There you
Got a
go.
hard head. You gotta have a hard. Hey, what the hell you got? Gotta have a hard head, man. Chain. Can you talk about this? Was very interesting. You told me this a long time ago. How you got started with the Billy Band. Not a lot of people know that. And then you started not being a guitar tech. How did you go from getting started with the band and then becoming the guitar tech? How did that happen?
I started working for a trucking company as one of the drivers, and that was on the Innocent Man tour.
Okay.
And as soon as I showed up for the first day of that, I met Boomer, who's our production manager,
Okay.
and instantly formed a bond with him. And he was somebody that I could tell was a good guy to work for or with. And he was a stage manager at the time, and we became buddies on the tour. And so I drove for that whole tour, and in that time became really good friends with everybody in the band, and it was a very close family kind of situation there. Everybody had wives and kids out, and it was a very comfortable place to be, which I wasn't used to after being previously 5 years on the road, living in trucks and driving and doing lights and traveling on different tours where you weren't very important. And so when I got there, everything was different. And I was like, this is where I want to stay. And I basically just kind of held on with everything I had. And the next tour came around, and I ended up, as lead driver on that tour.
Oh, cool.
And at some point during the tour, the guitar tech had to leave the tour. And I kind of raised my hand and said, I'd like to do that job. And kind of just basically learned everything I needed to know in the next month or so. And, kind of slipped my way into that. And I've just held on with everything I got since then. And, it's been 30 some years. But, I just, I was always somebody who wanted to learn something new every day. And, learning to be a guitar tech was something that I just really, thought I could do, and just put my mind to it. And
well, you were a musical cat earlier. When you're younger, you played a little bit.
I did, but I forgot all of it.
It happens to a lot of us. I forget it every night. What are you talking about?
Yeah.
Especially now. There's no gigs.
But I've had guitars around since I was a little kid. I always walked around with a guitar, could barely play it, but I always had one. And played in a couple of bands, but they never were much of anything. It just, I found that I didn't have a real good tolerance for repetition.
Okay.
And that counting to 4 and staring into lights and, all that, and really wasn't my thing. And I could never get along with anybody that I was in a band with.
That's it. He didn't play well with others.
I became a race car driver instead.
And by the way, let me circle back to that. You got demoted from truck driver to guitar tech.
Yeah, it was quite a pay cut there.
I know. I know.
And I sure could sleep a lot more.
Well, that hasn't changed. You're still doing some of your best sleeping over there on stage, right?
Of course.
Yeah, actually, people should notice too, if you go on stage right, which is the audience left, that's Chainsaw's world. So Chainsaw is, got guitar and bass land over there, and it's his whole own great little world. And then if you go on, if you look on from the audience, it's the right side, but stage left, you got Wayne's World over there. And
that's stage wrong. That would be
stage wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you and me get in trouble all the time. That's the problem.
There's a lot of tequila going on sometimes on that side there.
Yeah, but we wait. We have to wait. It's the right time.
That's right.
It's all about timing.
Timing is everything.
Yeah. So, so that's kind of what, and these guys are, just more. When I first joined the band, I'll just give you a little insight. And when I first joined, we were rehearsing in 2005 at a car dealership in Long Island, and it was pretty cool because everything was black drapes in the center of the car dealership, and it was just like circling around, and it was a fun time. And I remember seeing Wayne, and he was dealing with some piano issues and just being very studious and taking care of business. I remember seeing.
Was it coffee and a piano?
That's cleaning. That's cleaning.
That was an accident. Sorry.
Yeah, no, that was an accident. Don't make Wayne turn around.
You'd be surprised what's been in that piano. You'd be surprised what's been poured in that piano.
If that piano could talk. But I remember seeing these two guys, and they were like really gruff at first. I'm looking at them like, okay, man, these guys are going to eat my lunch, man. They're going to kill me. And they kind of looked at me, and it took about a day. And then like the second day, they at least looked at me and we said hello to each other. But I was like, the crew guys, the techs, everybody is more important the way I feel about it. I don't know how everybody else feels, but they're more important than the band members, because you guys have been here longer than anybody, almost longer than anybody, but you guys make it happen, man. And so that's I'm serious about this. Billy is I'm trying not to go too fanboy on Billy, but honestly, it comes from the best, from the top, and it goes all the way down to there's no bad position in his organization, I don't think, unless you play trumpet and trombone and saxophone. I mean, you got
it's a big family.
Tablecloth. I got a tablecloth for a shirt. Come on. So enough about me. Now I'm going to get on Wayne for a second. So that's a little bit about Ricky, but the next question I have for Wayne is basically, again, how did you get involved, Wayne, with the band, and what drew you, and how, what drew you to become a piano tech? What were the two catalysts to kind of make you do and get in with the organization? What's your interest, and how has it changed? I'm sure it's changed tremendously.
Well, specifically, I worked with a piano company out of Dallas that rented Steinway Grands.
Oh, cool.
And that's how I kind of started into it. And just like Ricky said, I knew Boomer from the Springsteen tour. It's like everything else, guys. You got to know somebody. You got to be at the right spot at the right time. You need to know how to walk the walk, but it's like everything else, guys. You got to have somebody to get you in the door. And Bobby was my in with Bill.
Okay.
And it has, in this day and age now, there's still some bands that do use acoustic grands, but it's a lot of digital now, a lot of piano shells and a lot of, but there's still some purists out there. We're still, I don't really miss tuning. I don't mind doing the one button tuning.
Yeah.
That's a lot easier than pulling it out of the truck when it's 12 degrees and trying to keep it in tune. But to circle back, Billy, you're right. It starts from the top down. And when you were talking about when you first started with the band, Billy called us all together, and not just you specifically, but he goes, I want the crew guys, I want you to ride these guys. You guys are the boss. I'm not a good boss about riding people. He was basically making us the bad cop and him being the good cop, which we can all, that's what we play best, the bad cop. We're the best. We're all bark and no bite, But it started from the top. He goes, I want you to, kick these guys in the butt, and it was pleasurable. He's got your house broke now.
I remember that day, and me and Wayne looked at each other and went, excellent.
We can be bad. We can be mean to the band.
What?
This is a dream.
It's like, make sure that, they get what they need to do their, do the show. But, if they start making
don't let them take me shit. Don't take me shit, basically.
Don't let them get too out of control, because some band guys need like more than others, and so keeping things in perspective was good.
You know how long it took us to housebreak Carl, getting potty trained on stage? You remember how long that took?
I'm still not housebroken. What are you talking about? I get tangled in cable.
Wee pads on stage.
Yeah. What about all those saxophone stands we have to replace?
Oh, dude, it's like
you get tripped on.
How many stands?
Another Amazon truck pulls up, and it's a damn saxophone stand.
I opened my equipment trunk and see another saxophone stand.
We've cornered the market on saxophone stands and bits.
Hercules is like built a giant complex
from us.
I don't think there's any equipment made that Carl. I don't think there's any equipment made that Carl hasn't been able to trash at some point. Knock over, tear up. Do one. I mean,
the only thing that still works is that triangle-shaped 25-pound mic bass. Everything else has been broken.
Oh, that's got kicked over a few times. Don't kid me.
And all the threads are all stripped out of it.
Yeah.
And it just spins around like.
Well, he thinks it's like a jack. I see. He's jacking a car up there.
Yeah.
I'm home. I'm getting this abuse. I don't even have to leave anymore. I love it.
We've got to phone it in now.
We can bring it into you via.
I do miss everybody. I really do miss everybody so much. I mean, it really is tough right now on every level.
Man, you got clips tonight, man.
I'm full of clips tonight, and it's cool because I've been sitting on this stuff, waiting to show people. So it's
cool.
So
what do you got? What do you got?
This one is actually a solo that you took on with Maine on Ain't No Sunshine.
Oh, with Maynard, okay.
Yeah. So and this one is also from that same show in Stockholm in 2004. So
what's that tune called? Dear Old Stockholm? Dear Old Stockholm.
Yeah, right.
Old standard.
It's actually a really great show. I mean, there's so much stuff that from this show.
Really?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. I had only 3 clips. It is not enough. But take a quick listen to this one, guys and gals.
Carl Fischer, trumpet player.
Really cool. He's also a current author of his new book. It's not like a couple years old. Maybe Frank can bring us up to date on how old it is, but it's a nice book called I Knew That. So that's very, very cool. He's also played on the new Joker movie and on the new Jerry Seinfeld special show. Special show. He's also a well-spoken clinician, and he's in demand in many institutions around the world. I mean schools, not mental institutions. I'm the mental institution guy. So without further ado, say hello to my man, Frank Green. What's up, Frank?
Hey, what's happening, Carl?
Hey, what's happening in New York, man? You good?
My face cap has peanut butter all over it.
I'm glad you didn't suck on a lemon while I was playing. You're eating peanut butter. The lemon trick.
You sounded great.
I'm smoking mirrors, man. But I appreciate you coming and hanging with us, man. It means a lot.
Oh, come on, my pleasure. I can see Raul laughing.
Yeah, he's abusing us still. Well, I'll bring him into the mix. So, without any more time, we have to bring in another famous friend of ours who keeps us laughing. He's one of the best trumpet players Frank and I know. I go back with Raul Acosto to about 2003. He's currently the trumpet player and has been the trumpet player of the Broadway hit musical Book of Mormon. He also has a wonderful CD out called Between Brothers. It's a must-have. It's a killer CD you got to check out. He has also been a lead trumpet player with the Super Smash hit, Tony Award winning In the Heights. Actually, back in the day when I was doing Moving Out, which was Billy Joel's Broadway show, I actually used him as a sub originally on Moving Out, and then he actually went out on a national tour of the Billy Joel Moving Out. So if you have seen Moving Out on the road, man, it was my man Raul holding down the trumpet, man. Wonderful player. He's originally from Caracas, Venezuela, and again, just like Frank, he has a lengthy career, both in classical and as a commercial player in Caracas. In '96, he relocated to New York. He studied back in the day with Victor Paz. Victor Paz was a great Latin and Afro-Cuban. You know, he was on a million records and shows in town, so he had the opportunity to study with Victor. Raul's credits, you know, is the who's who of the best in the Afro-Cuban and Latin world. He's on basically any record you turn on, he's on it. Tito Puente, Eddie Palmieri, Chico O'Farrill, Jennifer Lopez, Mark Anthony, Paquito de Rivera, Celia Cruz, Hector Lavoe, Ruben Blades. I could go on and on. You know, safe to say he's on those records, and you've heard him. Not only just that scene, but he's in the jazz and pop world. His credits are impressive as well. His movie credits and TV is extensive, and he will be on a new Fosse Verdon show, which is coming up, I believe. So we're all going to keep an eye out for that. Without further ado, say hello to my man Raul Aglas.
Hey, what's up, Carl? Frank, how you doing? Steven,
Hey.
how you guys doing? Man, I have to say something.
What do you got?
As soon as you finish playing that solo, you know, I have this book. I use practice improvisation. So I'm quitting. Quitting.
Oh man.
I'm writing improvisation.
No more improvisation for me.
Hey, Raul, we could write a book called Quitting Improvisation.
The easiest thing, man. You just make it up as you go. You know, what's the age-old thing? How do you get a jazz trumpet player to stop playing? You put a chart in front of them. Oh man, you know, I mean, that's what I love about you guys. You do it all, and man, it's inspired me as a trumpet player. You know, to be able to play different styles, and you know, being able to improvise in different formats, and you do that, and Frank does that, man. It's, you know, it's hard. We all know it's kind of hard to be a jack of all trades, master of none, which I feel that. I think we all have that trait. It's like, oh man, you know. I mean, Frank, I mean, that's got to be crazy for you too, bro. I mean, playing on the Late Show, you know. I mean, on you know. Was it the Late Show? Am I saying it right? Did I say it right?
Oh yeah, Late Show. Yeah, with David. Yeah.
I mean, I remember you telling me, man, one track could be like a classical piccolo thing, and the next thing you're playing a R&B funk line. It's so the dichotomy in the music is everywhere, right?
Yeah, crazy.
Yeah.
But at least you drink a lot, so you know, kind of balance it out. So
it always balances out. Yeah, man. So you know, yeah, the improv thing is. You always want to practice the stuff, you know, like I say to kids, you always want to practice the stuff you stink at, but you always want to end up sounding good. So you always go to your last vice, you know, your thing that you're really good at and you feel like you're comfortable at. You always want to leave your practice session with a positive outlook.
Yeah.
Not always
definitely.
suck, you know, yeah. I guess, I don't know. Pick your brain. What do I know? So I'm going to hit Frank with one right away. You know, what made you pick the trumpet? And
boxers. Oh wait, boxers are breed. What's the question?
Yeah, right. Wow, and Eric Hiroshima. All right, let me tell that, Frank. I got to tell you, we were messing around a half hour ago.
You're probably watching now, right?
Yeah. Sorry. There's a YouTube video. I want to get this out in the open because I'm already taking it left. So Frank and I were on Maynard's band. Unfortunately, I think it was Scott Engelbright playing this night. We were in Japan, and the great Eric Miyashiro came, was a guest, and sounded great. And, you know, he's just a wonderful guy. And he came up and played on Birdland. There's a YouTube of it. It's hysterical. And Maynard introduced him as Eric Hiroshima. And, you know, but Frank and I always have this thing, and that was how Maynard went up. And how you doing? But you know, what made you play trumpet, and what made you pick it up as a profession? Why did you do it for a profession? How did that come about? Why did you start playing, and what made you play professionally?
Is that for me or Raul?
That's for you, Frank.
Oh man, you know,
Raul's gonna have the same question, by the way. I only know 2 questions.
I got this. I'll just put this on when it's not my turn. Gotta have a hole in the middle of it. Raul and I were just talking about that because we heard that in Korea the Phantom of the Opera show kind of kept going and everybody was wearing masks, right? So Raul and I were thinking we'll get a mask and put the hole in it and go back to our show. Back to our shows, on Broadway.
I'm working on something now. I show you the prototype.
What do you got, Raul? For $9.99. So Frank, what made you start, bro? Seriously, what made you start, bro? I'm curious.
When I was a kid, my sister played the song flute, and I remember hearing this little, 4-hole plastic flute. Man, I couldn't wait to play the song flute. And so I was like about maybe 4 years old, 5 years old. And so when I finally got a song flute, man, I played that for like hours and hours a day. And just because it was fun, You
should have a pink shirt.
So, sorry, we had way too many inside jokes.
The snake.
When in school they say, do you want to play the drums or the trumpet or a trombone? I said drums, and my dad said, yeah, try again.
Me too, drums. Yeah.
So I picked the trumpet. I picked a cornet because my dad would pay for the cornet because he could rent it for like $5 a week.
Cool.
He said, this is all you're worth. So I see. So we got it for $5 a week, and then I practiced like an hour or a couple hours a day. So he said, okay, we'll buy it for you. I think the horn is probably $80. You know what I mean? Back then, back in 1907. Yeah.
Wow, that's cool.
We got in our Model A and we drove to the music store. The guy quartered, and we got a gallon of milk and 2 trumpets.
Yeah, you didn't drive. You had to walk 10 miles, right?
Yeah, that's true.
No, I'm kidding.
Anyway.
So that was the beginning of it.
Yeah, I heard Herb Alpert, man. That was it. It was like, I want to play some Herb. I used to play along with Herb Alpert, the Tijuana Brass records.
Really?
All right. Those are fun to play along with when you're a kid.
Yeah.
Well, even now, shoot, I can barely play that stuff. Bobby Finley, all that crazy stuff. Bobby Finley, I still can't play that.
Stop.
Chuck of it, punch him through his brother.
You can do that with one lip, bro. What are you talking about? That's cool. And then how did you bridge the gap going from, okay, I'm having fun with this, like, okay, I want to do this for a living now. Was there one particular time it was like, this is what I want to do, or did it just kind of roll upon you, Frank?
I think it's like, I remember asking my dad, were you worried about me being a musician? Because, when you tell people, especially when we were younger, if you say you want to be a musician, everyone said, you're crazy, get a job, which, get a job is almost bad advice now. But,
yeah.
So he was like, no, because you played so much just for fun. We never had to ask you to practice. You just played for fun. I didn't play a lot, but I would play for fun. So he was like, but here's what it was. We were in a band, and the band was playing Hey Jude.
Okay.
Down a fourth, of course. But the band director wanted us to hear how it sounded when Maynard's band did it, right? So back in the day, you drop the needle down. And so if you remember the tune before Hey Jude, it was Freewheeler.
Yeah.
And so he'd drop it down, and I hear Maynard play. I didn't know it was Maynard playing a valve trombone, and it sounded so great.
You were saying this on the text. I'm sorry. Yeah.
Yeah.
This is great. Okay, I'm learning, man. Cool.
There was a pivotal moment. It was that which I told Maynard that story later. He thought it was hilarious, but that was like a pivotal moment because I remember getting that record, and then of course I wore out that track, and then I kind of started listening to the other tracks. It was like I never heard anything like that before, so it was like I want to try to play like this one day.
Oh wow, man!
That's kind of how it got started. It's his valve trombone playing. That kind of.
So that's crazy, man. So Herb Alpert was like when you were really young, and then valve trombone of Maynard Ferguson.
Yeah,
wow, that's very hip.
Everything else, of course, but that was pretty much it. Because come on, you remember that solo from Freewheeler?
I don't, man. I'm sorry, I've been lying.
That sloping swing thing, man. It's great. So
right in the pocket.
Check it out later, and you'll see what I mean. It's it's addictive. It's pretty cool.
Also, it's funny you say that too, because the text we were talking about this week was that video was shared. Was it the 50s band?
Oh yeah.
Boy, and when he was playing Val Bone too.
People keep sending me all these new Maynard things. I get to listen to stuff I never heard before.
It's crazy.
Yeah, boy, right on that recording, that live recording, it's just so. This is like he's playing. It sounds like he's just singing. Well, it was this whole thing. I'm an operatic tenor.
Yeah, I'm gonna play. Sing through it. Yeah.
And
what am I playing? And what is this?
Carl.
Frank, play. Now.
Remember those days? You turn around and go, you got it.
Yeah. It was like tag team.
Great, perfect. Yeah, just like our parts weren't hard enough, right?
Well, since we're on here, I mean, this is what the hang's all about. We should talk. We should hit that. When I originally came out with you, I know you kind of had an open door policy with Maynard for a number of years, just like I did. It was like family. You could come and go, and and that was because of not only Maynard but the great Ed Sargent, who was on here, our Big Daddy. So a shout out to Big Daddy. He took care of us. Hey, Frank, can you meet this tour?
Came out, heard the Basie band, shocked the crap out of me to see him in the audience.
Yeah, right. It's crazy. And now he's doing. Big Daddy is actually the tour manager and operation manager for Joan Jett. So talk about different dichotomy of demographic of people and artists, man. But so Ed and Maynard had a thing, man. It was wonderful. So Frank and I finally got in the band. I knew you before. I remember hanging with you in the 90s with Faddis in the early 90s. We went to dinner in Orlando. I think you were working in Disney at that point, right? When did you leave Disney, Frank?
92, 93 maybe.
Okay, so yeah, it was probably 91 or 92 is when we hung. Yeah, okay, so finally Frank and I were on the band together. I was a big fan of Frank's sound and the way he phrased. And that's why Frank and Raul are on here, because I'm literally, it's not, I always like to bring people on and play with people who I can learn from, and that's how I felt when I was on Maynard's band. And when I played with Raul, it's the same feeling. And I remember, we had 3 trumpets. It was Jay Roberts, who was, right? You came out with Jay, correct? Jay was great.
No, Jay, the first time I was out, it was me and John Owens.
Yeah, I'm talking about when it was just you and John for 2, and John's a monster.
Yeah.
I remember hearing you guys together. I was blown away.
That was fun. John's super fun, right?
He could play everying too, John. He's like you.
But I got a hitman out for him, so he won't be around too much longer.
Yeah. We'll get him first, take out Raul, and then John.
Those dates, I'll never hear him scream.
We'll get him good.
Yeah.
But, and so Jay was playing second, and I was playing third, and then Jay ended up leaving the tour, and so it was just 2 trumpets, I remember. Man, I remember it was, you were great because it was like a tag team. You really cognizant of, putting people, and that's what I really love about good lead players, putting people in their best, showing them in their best light. Okay, Carl might sound good on this phrase. You play this phrase, and I'll give me a rest, and then I'll come out on this phrase, and then Maynard would turn around and point at us, and so like you said,
both of you.
Yeah, it was crazy, right? And I learned so much that tour, having just 2 of us together.
It's fun, right? You can do all kinds of different stuff when it's the smaller horn band. Because in a big band, a big band's like this big Buick, going down the street. No, any people from Buick watching, don't.
Well, Buick's they're out of business now. So
there you go. So, but when it's a small horn section, we could like change things on the fly, and we can kind of so no 2 shows are the same in a row. If you kind of solve the show in a good way, hopefully.
Yeah. Oh, it was always fresh too, which I really dug, because I mean, I know you're like that too. You get to a certain point where you're not even reading the music anymore. It's just ingrained. I'm sure it's the same way on Broadway. I know when I was on Broadway, you don't have to crack the book. It just becomes second nature. So
yeah.
But that was cool times. Mm-hmm. And so then, to throw the ball at Raul, Raul, what? I know you're from Caracas, Venezuela.
No, I need to correct you in that matter. I'm actually from Villa de Cura, which is about 2.5 hours from Caracas. So.
Oh, I'm sorry, bro.
Yeah, no, it's all right. I mean, it's fine. Totally fine.
I thought, I made a mistake.
I just don't want my pitch to get mad at me if I don't name my.
Yeah, no, man, I'm sorry. I got that from thinking when I first went to Caracas with.
Yeah.
Now I think that's when I originally heard about you.
Oh, because I moved there when after a while, and then I stayed there until I moved to New York.
Okay, so it was Caracas. It was your hometown, 2.5 hours, and Caracas was.
Then Caracas, yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Yeah, I was a young age. Yeah.
Well, I know. I read in your bio you played flute first. That was your first instrument. What made you check?
Well, actually, believe it or not, I started singing. When I turned 7 years, I got picked up to sing in a choir, in international choir. So, and I stayed with the music school from the same choir, and learning how to read music at the same time.
Okay.
And I remember my first international trip was when I turned 8 years old.
No.
Yeah, with this
man.
choir. Yeah, it was France, Germany, Spain. You know, it was crazy.
Wow.
So, you know, learning how to read music in the same school, the same choir school. School. So I just I heard Maynard Ferguson, Maria, because my father used to play trumpet when he was younger.
There it is. All right.
So, but he quit the trumpet because his teacher was really, really, really hard on him. So he quit the trumpet. He said, "No, I don't like the teacher." I mean, that's why he taught me, that his teacher used to teach him with a little, stick, and every time he made a mistake, he just hit it really hard.
Like Whiplash, the movie Whiplash.
Yeah. So that's what exactly something like that. So that's why he quit the trumpet, but probably when he was 12 years, something like that.
Wow.
So no, he loved the trumpet. He had some jazz at home, and I heard that he put Maynard Ferguson, and I love it. It was 8.5 years, and at that point they asked me what instrument I really wanted to play. So I chose the trumpet, but they didn't have any trumpet back then. Oh, wow. So they have a French horn.
Okay.
So, and I started with the French horn. That was basically my first instrument, and waiting for that trumpet. Never got the trumpet. So when I turned 9 years, finally, I couldn't afford it. I mean, my mother couldn't afford it. My father couldn't afford it. Finally, the conductor of this choir find me a trumpet. So, okay, fine, great. Finally, I'm going to start playing the trumpet. So, and believe it or not, I just started with the same teacher that my father started. Oh, wow. So, but this time he was totally cool. He didn't.
He wasn't hitting you.
He wasn't hitting me. So,
why? It's because he never made a mistake. That's why.
No. So, yeah, exactly.
Blood all over.
So that's basically, how I started playing the trumpet. So that's when I heard the first time Maynard Ferguson,
So that's how, man. So he didn't abuse you, though. That's good.
Not at all. And actually, after a couple of years after that, I started playing with this choir. Had at the same time had a big band,
okay,
big orchestra.
Yeah, man.
And I started playing the second trumpet in that orchestra. So, and of course, I started traveling with them. And it's funny because by then I had a pretty good high range,
Okay.
And I remember we went to Spain, and I was playing this the Mambo Perez Prado Mambo number 5, and I remember when I was 13 years old, I was playing all the notes like nothing, natural. And this other trumpet from Spain, they look at me like I was a alien or something like that. Who's this guy? So I wish I have that range right now, but unfortunately, it's gone.
Both you and Frank are very modest. We know better. No. We know, right, Frank? We know better.
No.
I've heard Raul. This is all lies. I know. Yeah.
He's coming out. He's coming out swinging. So so that Raul. So you were young. I mean, so it sounds like the profession kind of picked you. I mean, there wasn't.
Yeah, it was right away, basically. Then I moved to. I went to study in another city close to my town.
Okay.
With the Conservatory of Music.
Okay.
And when I moved to that city, I started working with a bunch of groups, and experience and making a living, playing with the symphony, with the youth symphony at the same time. And then when I made the decision to move to Caracas was because my teacher, the teacher who was teaching me at this school, he was the principal of the Philharmonic, and at the same time he used to play the lead trumpet of it's a big TV channel in Venezuela, Venevisión, which is very important. You know, okay. It's like NBC, something like that. You
Oh
know?
wow! Okay.
So and he invited me actually to record a couple of things with him. You know, big, you know, jingles or whatever came out. So that's basically how I started at a very young age.
Yeah, man. Yeah. It's you know, it wasn't so there wasn't one deciding factor. There was multiple factors that just led you into it.
Exactly.
Very cool. Yeah. And you know, it's
Second
funny.
one, and I know James is with us tonight. He asked in a previous stream, thanks for doing these again. You sound great on flugel. What kind of flugel are you playing?
Thanks, James. The real question is, what kind of trumpet and what kind of flugel am I not playing?
Yeah, right.
I don't have a flugel endorsement at this time being. Actually on Billy's gig, I'll talk about flugels because just like I was playing plunger earlier, it's another. I think it's not lost, but a lot of guys now play just trumpet, and they really don't know how to address playing flugelhorn. A lot of guys play flugelhorn like they play their trumpet. And, you know, it was funny because you read forums about Maynard and stuff and like, oh man, Maynard plays like a flugel like trumpet. Sometimes, I mean, Maynard plays Maynard, you know, but he played so lyrical on flugelhorn. Some of my favorite lyrical playing is Maynard playing flugelhorn. So on Billy Joel's gig, I have to play the Freddie Hubbard solo in the middle of Zanzibar, and that's for flugel it goes, you know, D's and E flats in the upper register. So flugels are very hard to play in tune in general, and they're even harder to play in the upper register if you choose to play that way. Freddie could play it great. Obviously, I mentioned Maynard a whole bunch because I just first degree, you know, there's no degrees of separation there. I've seen it nightly. So on Billy's gig, I had a Yamaha endorsement. At first I was playing Bobby's horn, the Z flugel, and then prior to the horn coming out, I actually have a prototype. They gave one to Wayne Bergeron, they gave one to me, Wayne Tanabe, and Bob Malone were doing the 8315, I believe, and the nickname was the LA flugelhorn. I actually had that horn on the road for a year and a half, and I field tested it, and so did Wayne. And we changed a whole bunch of things, but I ended up playing that horn for years. So that stays in my Yamaha. My Yamaha stays in the road case with Billy. However, when I was with Con Vintage One, I developed with Fred Powell and Rob Parton and a whole bunch of great musicians. Nicholas Payton, a whole bunch of great guys were, you know, really into playing flugel also. So I did some R&D. I played a Vintage One flugelhorn for a number of years. And man, I just went back to old home. I have a lot of flugelhorns. And I finally found a 1947 or 48 Queenon, which every horn I've played has been a copy. The problem with the old Queenons is they don't really play in tune. A lot of them, or if they do, you got to hold on to it. A lot of them have a French taper. And what I mean by a French taper, it's in the lead pipe here. And they accept a French taper mouthpiece, which is a different size shank. Well, what remedied this, I got to talking to my good friend Gary Racky, and him along with Charlie Melk in Atlanta, Georgia, came up and were working on and had done, thankfully at this time, a GR Queenon lead pipe that accepts standard shank mouthpieces. So happens that makes this horn play so much better in tune throughout the partials of the horn. So I'm going to play this a little later. I'm going to play a tune. Well, I tried to attempt to play it last week, but 2 weeks ago. Was it last week, Steven?
No, it was last week, and I had a power outage.
Yeah, the power. And so, like, I played a melody, a pure imagination. I'm going to play it a little later, but this is an old Queen on. And I wouldn't play this on Billy's gig because it's got a really dark sound in the upper register. It gets a little squirrely, still even with the GR pipe. But it's negotiable. You can get around it. But, man, this is just, it's got that sound. It's got that really nice, Tom Harrell plays a Queen on. A lot of guys play. They're hard to come by, and most of them have horrible lead pipes. So Gary's probably going to hate me along with Charlie Melk, but you might want to call those guys to get one of these lead pipes for these horns because they're amazing.
Very cool. And you mentioned Maynard's flugel playing. I kind of got another surprise.
Yeah, you got to roll this footage because I did hear it over the phone, and this is what we're talking about. I'm going to let you set it up, but this is as lyrical as it comes, man.
Yeah, so I mentioned earlier, the clip earlier was from a concert in 2004 in Stockholm, and also on Girl from Ipanema, Maine played some flugel, so I got a little clip for you guys.
Special night. No one's seen it. No one's seen this.
There you go.
How about that?
Man, it's just nothing. I feel bad for anybody that didn't get to hear him live.
That's why I
really
love
do.
playing. I love these nights when we just kind of, it's you and I, we find some stuff and kind of lay it on people. It's kind of like, when I was a kid, you come over to your house and we'd listen, you'd listen to your record, you sit down and listen to records. How many young people haven't heard Maynard or Dizzy Gillespie or Miles Davis or John Coltrane or,
Yeah.
the list goes on, man. Hearing it live is a different thing.
Yeah,
And then seeing other footage that's not Bergland and Rocky, the typical Maynard stuff. He had a lot of sides to him, which a lot of people didn't really realize.
So
Want me to play a little bit, or you said you had something up your sleeve?
No, I got something new. So,
because we can talk all day with everybody, and we can still do that.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
You got me intrigued on this new thing here, bro.
Yeah, we had a lot of great questions. So I know we went a little bit.
Thank you
long.
for that. Thanks, guys and girls.
I've been working on this when we get the questions that are very similar. So like when people ask for a Billy story or a Maynard story. So I created something, and you're going to be excited.
Oh, here we go.
about
Okay,
this.
Gordon, what do you got?
Are you ready? Everybody get ready for this. I'm all excited.
Come on, Gordon. Let's see what you got.
We have the Wheel of Fish.
Wheel of Fish.
I don't know whether to pat you on the back
You
or
guys are
choke
going to
you.
be excited about this. So
I'm going to get comfortable for this
one.
one.
Yeah, we have the Wheel of Fish, and I'm going to play the fanfare again just because it's cool.
Wheel of Fish.
It's the Wheel of Fish.
I'm a fish, all right.
So, are you ready for the inaugural spin of the Wheel of Fish?
All right, Ramsey. Let it fly there, Ramsey.
All right, here we go. The initial Wheel of Fish spin. Here we go.
Woo-hoo.
Oh, okay. the first topic of discussion for the Wheel of Fish, and these can be 10-second comments or 10-minute comments, whatever you feel.
Oh boy.
We landed on range improvement, which is good because there was a question in the chat that I hadn't been able to get to yet in regards to that.
It's 10 to 11. Well, should I do what first comes to my mind? It might not be the most PG thing, though. Dizzy Gillespie. Yeah, Dizzy Gillespie story is someone asked him the same question. He goes, "It comes from your butt." range comes from your butt. Your diaphragm's connected to your sphincter muscle. All kidding aside, and he actually has believe it or not, actually, he said not for you. It comes from your ass. There's a video of that. He goes, "It comes from your ass." I watch it all the time. He goes, and his wife, he's like, he got in trouble from his wife, which I'll probably get in trouble from my wife when she hears this. He goes, "Why did you say that?" He goes, "But really physically, it's connected in a way. Your diaphragm, it's all about air manipulation. I don't have a special set of chops. They vibrate. My lips, everybody has, God willing, you have two lips, they vibrate, they buzz. But it's air manipulation, being able to change your air streams, and not putting excess pressure. There's always going to be pressure on your chops, but not putting excess pressure, pulling in and stopping the vibration. Very simple. Again, what works for me, I can sit here and talk 5 hours on it, but the basic concept of, it's hard to, everybody's in a different place with range, but 9 times out of 10, I can basically tell you it's air manipulation, getting your air from the right source, not shallow up here, not here, getting it, when you have an energy demand, as Maynard would say, getting it from your diaphragm, from your lower extremities, your lower stomach, your back, being able to use that air speed and velocity in the correct way and not choking it down. And I get a kick, not choking it down in your throat, choking it down, or having like a high, or very small sound, and not stopping the vibration on the lip. I get a kick out of this. This is what gets me, especially now on the internet, guys playing high notes, Like, oh, wow, I hit a high F. Like, you don't hit a note unless it's a note. And what I mean by that is not loud, but full. So to make that horrible sound, and a lot of guys are doing that up an octave, up, or up to D's and E's over double C, and I shake my head because it's so funny to me. But it's that choking down sound, with the high tongue. So just having an open air column. Instead of playing that A, pinched. No, just air. It's there. It's, and mind you, I'm not gigging. I don't have, steady chops right now. I wish I did, because I'm not, I don't really have a goal right now other than to hang out with you guys. But what I'm saying is, if you're going to play a note, have it open, have it, pretty, not no one wants to hear that pinching, thing. So full, open. And again, I have no chops. So, but that's, the idea of, Pavarotti opera, just big and fat. Michael Del Giudice. You hear him do Nessa Dorma in Madison Square Garden, and he's got this big sound, and he's using his air correctly. It's the same thing as a vocalist as a wind player, manipulating your air and having everything open and resonant. So it's a big word.
I think the one thing that's most important that you'll never change or will never change is the people wanting to get away, the escapism, or the fact that the true entertainment is when you come to a place like the Garden. Well, I shouldn't say like, because there's no place like the Garden.
Oh, yeah.
But to come to a Billy show at the Garden, that I've been talking for a while now to a bunch of friends, and I'm saying the same thing. I mean, everybody's saying, when's it going to happen? I said, I don't know when, but when it does, it's going to be the biggest moment of my life, and it's going to be like, it's like we're free. And I think it's really important to not lose track of how important it is. I mean, you and I know how crazy it is that we haven't been able to perform in front of people. We're entertainers, but we're social people. And but I just wanted to touch on that. You were talking about not worrying, but just the article, what it insinuated.
Yeah, no, that's a good. It's always good to kind of come back and hear. That's why I throw things out to get different voices on it and opinions, because especially with the technology, you get inside your own little box.
Sure.
Speaking of technology, Steven's in his little box right now, but you get into the little box of, this is my world, and, you're locked down. There is an outside. And like you said, we're very social people, and playing music is part of why.
It's what we do.
Yeah.
It's like, honestly, Carl, it's like breathing to us. Because when we don't get to do it, we suffocate the opposite way. We don't have it. It's I feel that way. I'm driving my wife nuts, by the way. She says, you got to get out and do something. But
Kenneth says, you going on a road?
Yeah. Sandra, send the love to Kenneth. Please be sure you give her a hug and a kiss for us, okay?
I will, man. Thank you so much. Likewise, back at her. That's beautiful. Yeah, it's I can't even explain it. It's
that's the whole thing, Carl. There's no people say, why did you do that? What about playing? It's like I got bit by a bug when I was 11. I always loved the idea of playing until like 8 or 9. Yep. But when the Beatles came out on February 8th, 60, it was done.
Yeah.
Over and done. 8th and 9th. Now my brain just went. But that Sunday in February.
Okay.
And, it was all over.
Well, actually, it's funny you say that, because, being that you were such a Beatle fan in the early days, and still to this day, now you work with a Beatle, and so you were playing with Sam and Dave, Uncle Vinny gave you alto saxophone and helped you out. What made you bridge that gap? Obviously, you were a Beatle. You loved the Beatles. What made you want to play more pop music instead of going other genres? Playing, you did Motown with Sam and Dave. You did some R&B stuff, but what was there a specific thing in your head that's like, I want to play pop music, or I want to play jazz, or I want to play? What brought you to where you are now?
1967.
There it is.
That's all I got to say. 1967 was the single most fertile year in pop music. You had the Beatles put out Pepper and Magical Mystery Tour. Hendrix put out Are You Experienced and Axis Bold as Love. Cream put out Fresh Cream, Disraeli Gears. If you look down the list of the albums that came out in 67, and quite frankly, I was 14. I was, girlfriends getting, hanging out, and it was really like this great time. And it was still kind of innocent in a sense. But my dear friend Jimmy Braylow says we thought it was innocent, but it wasn't. It was the music and our isolation, because, the year after, 3 years prior to that, Kennedy was assassinated. The following year, Martin Luther King was assassinated, and it's music has always given us. It heals us. I don't know.
It gives you hope. Yeah, it's a. So what's the not only a vindication, but it's some type of thing you can't even talk about it. Maybe there's a word for it, but I'm forgetting it right now.
Well, it's visceral when you have that.
Thank you. There it is.
Yeah.
That's the word. That's a very big word.
No, it's visceral. I mean, because sometimes we feel challenged or compromised.
I feel a little compromised right now, but for visceral, that's exactly it. And so 67 was that time. It's like, this is what I want to do. Awesome.
100%. I mean, I have a band called Mark Rivera 67 Chevy, and we play the Cutting Room, and it's great. I could say in all humility, the band is smoking, and we play everything from Sly and the Family Stone. It's a whole other thing. We didn't even mention Sly.
Oh, yeah,
you got bands like Chicago, all these great bands. 67, it was all happening. Yeah. It was all coming out, and the other thing was the radio stations played whatever the DJ felt like was cool.
Okay.
You had Richie Havens, and then you had Joan Baez, then you had Hendrix, then you had Jefferson Airplane. It was like it just kept coming.
It wasn't like a pre-programmed thing, like
Not at all.
I feel sorry for the kids nowadays because everything has got to be such a stereotype. Okay, this is going to be a rap thing, so this is that, and this is this is going to be a country
program. Unfortunately, I have very dear friends. I mean, fortunately, I have very dear friends, but they're in a situation where they're kind of like they have to play what the playlist says. I mean, it's also it's sponsorship driven. I mean, yes. it's no question. Again, Braylauer, I keep quoting him. It used to be the music business. Now it's the business of music, because they've taken it and they went the other way. We know what that means. So.
Mark and I have a thing. Mark and I having a thing with this.
On stage, when instead we can't get the thing. We just. But anyway, that's how I really think it is. It's turned around, and all I could say is you can't begrudge anyone for doing well. But that's where a guy like Billy is head and shoulders above anybody. I mean, you think about it. He jokingly he's so self-effacing. He's like, I'm like a used car salesman, but I haven't had a hit out in 27 years. But it's half tongue in cheek, but it's true. Yeah. But what the validity is, the music is great, and they're going to keep coming back. And so that's the point. You cannot. There's no substitute for that. The same way when you play in your instrument, you're feeling it. That's what's inside. And when that comes out, we have Brian and Steve pumping this stuff out. No, there's no greater ears and eyes in the business than what we have.
Oh,
and
man,
this machine. This whole. I mean, top to bottom. Best. I mean, our friends, that's the truck drivers, stranger the grandfather. In fact, I got to give him a call.
Big tough guy. Stranger's one of our truck drivers. Big tough guy. Rides a Harley, and he's got the cutest baby in his arms, and it's like he's a teddy bear. But from the truck drivers to Billy, there's everybody's in a hot seat, and everybody has the same.
It's a family.
Yeah,
it's a family, and everybody's job it's codependent. And if something happened on stage, if Wayne needed to do something, I mean, I can never think for a second if I needed something that there wouldn't be three guys there for me, you included. We just look out for each other.
Yeah,
and that's the difference, as opposed to like, it's somebody else's job. No, it's all of our jobs.
Yeah,
and look, you and I know how blessed we are with this whole situation. As Michael Grisell said, it comes from the head of the horse back, and the head of our horse is a champion.
Oh yeah.
So it's just the way it is, man.
Yep, absolutely. And I was fortunate to have 2 weeks ago. 2 weeks ago we had Wayne Williams and Chainsaw Ricky LaPointe.
Oh yeah.
And it's always great. Those guys are wonderful, and they keep the wheels turning, so to speak.
Absolutely.
And they're and so it's amazing how. Every piece of the puzzle is just it's integral. It's really integral. Speaking of music too, I have another musical question for Chainsaw. But before I get there, Wayne, you're doing a good job. I'm going to hold you to the fire. What got you into collection? I know you play a little piano. I've been to your house, and you have B3. Finally, you have a lot of great old. Rhodes piano. I love the Wurlitzer. This is the evolution of trumpet mouthpieces. It's right there. I mean, how many years with Fagan and but what got? I knew you played. So how did you get into the whole piano thing, bro?
I never was really so musically inclined. I always like to tinker with things. What got me I started out as this will definitely date myself as a tech rep for Xerox. I would work on Xerox machines.
Really? This whole top
so
row
I'm more
here.
of a mechanic. I mean, if I had to play for a living, I'd starve to death. But
and
I've
this
always liked to take
starts
stuff apart,
I'll
put
just
it
show
together, and the piano. The acoustic piano is fascinating, and I was so fortunate enough to be able to study with a gentleman from the Steinway factory at Craftsman. And you know, again, we'll get back to that being at the right spot at the right time.
All
and
these mouthpieces right here was given to my dad
whatever
by
interest
Vincent
you
Bach.
got into it, and it's fascinating.
Ted, if you're on here, Ted was here last week, so
I
mechanic.
don't have the museum
Wagner
like Ricky's got there, but I
he
do
just
have,
retired from Bach. He was the oldest Bach
vintage
employee.
stuff.
He worked
like me.
with Bach. His son Lonnie's there still.
I know there's a nice 63
these were actually
reissued
in Mount Vernon. My dad
Telecaster there somewhere.
went to the factory and got to know Vincent pretty
It's in
well.
the closets there somewhere.
You know, this all starts from a 1C up to a 10C.
But that was it. It
Mount
was
Vernon's
just
given to him by Vincent. So
again, I wasn't musically inclined, but I just kind of like to tinker with things, and having the opportunity to study under a master. Like, and I'm going to name his name was Ed Kolakowski.
Started off when I was a kid. You know, I played the 7C, and then I got the mouthpieces.
Again, he was from the Steinway factory, and
you know, so these are the screw rooms. This was his bone mouthpiece.
Again, it was just whatever your interests are, and having the opportunity and being able to seize upon them.
Hey guys, not sure exactly what's happening here. We're having a little bit of a technical issue. We have stuff playing that's not even in the stream. So yeah, that happened. That's a first. So I am figuring out a solution very quickly, and I will get this back up for you. So give me 1 second. If you guys have any questions or anything like that, let me know, and I will answer them and figure this out at the same time. That's so weird. Not sure exactly what happens. Looks like Carl just joined the chat as well. I'm working on it, buddy. Not sure exactly what happened. The internet gremlins got me. We'll get it, guys, I promise. What do you got?
You know, I started the horn collection a while ago, and I finally cleaned it just last week. I finally got them all clean. So this is the evolution of my trumpet mouthpieces for me. And what, you know, and they're all in order. It's kind of a freaky thing. So I'll just touch on them quick. It's just everybody has their own story. Let's see, can we see them?
There you go.
Take that. Okay. So this whole top row here were all my dad's mouthpieces. And this starts from, I'll just show you. It starts from a New York Bach these mouthpieces are worth big money. New York Bach right now, 1C, 1.25 C. This is a Mount Vernon. All these mouthpieces right here was given to my dad by Vincent Bach. And if you're on here, Ted was here last week. Ted Wagner is he just retired from Bach. He was the oldest Bach employee. He worked Bach. His son Lonnie's there still at Bach. These were actually in Mount Vernon. My dad went to the factory and got to know Vincent pretty well. And so, this all starts from a 1C up to a 10C. All Mount Vernon's given to him by Vincent. So those are special. Then he got into the Giardinelli phase, which was the original screw rim. This is kind of when I started off on when I was a kid. I played a 7C, and then I got into mouthpieces. So, so these are the screw rims. This was his bone mouthpiece, which is a screw rim. This was the innovator that Terry Warburton worked for. Giardinelli mouthpieces was the original 2-piece mouthpiece. Check those threads out. This mouthpiece is from, I guess, the 60s. This was a GR I had made. It was one of my models I gave to my dad. So all these mouthpieces were my father's. He was a great trumpet player. And then this is my Maynard collection. Maynard gave me this old Jet Tone, and it was black. It was in his closet again. It was an MF Jet. But it was Maynard's. He had a lot of problems with this horn. This was an original, not anymore, but this is an MF. This is a Monette, and this was a Dosa. You can see it. Mm-hmm. And Maynard had a lot of problems with his mouthpieces, because if you look down here, this was when Dave was making him play. This was a 22 throat. If you're familiar with throats, you can see it's 20, and he couldn't play it. No one can play this mouthpiece. It's ridiculous. So that's a Monette 22 throat Dosa. This was Maynard's Buddy Morrow. When he gave me his Superbone, this was Maynard's mouthpiece he played. It was a Buddy Morrow Jet Tone. Good mouthpiece. So that's Maynard's pile. And then I ran into, in the early 90s, a gentleman named Scott Holbert. He was a good friend of mine. He was in the Army band. Great trumpet player, great teacher, and I was having chop problems, and a friend of mine said, go see Scotty. He also makes mouthpieces. And these are two, well, I haven't opened these. These are 2 pieces also. This is the original mouthpiece that everything's based off still of my jazz mouthpiece GR. This is what he called, it's a CF, but it's a 2B flat. And this was the revolutionary rim that Scotty came up with back in the day, flat and no cut. And this saved my career. He was in Hanover, Maryland at the time. Was in Hanover. He made that, and then I wanted something heavier, and he made me the same mouthpiece, but in a heavy shank. Everybody was playing heavy shanks back then. So this was the heavy shank. Then he made me the matching deep V-cup Flugel mouthpiece. And I love Scotty. Scotty made me a lot of mouthpieces, but my thing was, he was making them on a lathe, and my thing was, I dropped things. So I wanted 2 of the same mouthpieces, and they were close, but they were never exact. So at the time I was hanging out with John Faddis a lot, and he was dealing with Black and Hill. So Greg Black and Hill in New York copied my original Holbert mouthpiece. So it's the same rim, very close. I played this for years. That's my Fat Boy of my Black and Hill. And then was playing out on Maynard's band on Maynard's Con. Monette came out, was hanging out, was working on mouthpieces and horns for Maynard, and Monette made me a whole bunch. Dave's a great guy. I love Dave. He made me a whole bunch of these mouthpieces, the Monette, but this is what he called the CF2, and this was he tried to base this off what I liked. I got rid of the other mouthpieces. This is a good mouthpiece, but it was still had a sharp bite to it. And then I met my man Gary Radke, and I showed him a Black and Hill, and I showed him the original Holbert mouthpiece, and this was the jazz, and he based everything off of this original Holbert. And I got in a fight with him about it. He said, I'm going to make this mouthpiece, but it's not going to be exact. I'm like, well, then I don't want to play it. He goes, I'm going to make it better. I'm like, no, you're not. I just want a copy of it. He says, no, I'm going to make it better. And he made it in a week for me. And it not only was it better, he sent me 3 other ones that were identical because he was making them on CNC lathes at that time. So that was very interesting. This was my original Flugelh mouthpiece he made. This is going back 19 years. And then these are all derivatives. You know, this is the first. This is another jazz, a newer jazz, a signature Z. You know, this is a prototype. See this, Steven? Can you read it?
Is that the zippy?
Zippy mouthpiece, yeah. Which never, it was the Z mouthpiece. This was the original Jazz Rockstar. Mm-hmm. This is the original JRW. So yeah, so my little box of history of mouthpieces, I'm kind of proud of it because it goes from Vincent Bach, you know, to great Giardinelli, to Maynard's Marcinkiewicz, Jet Tones, to Dave Monet's stuff, to my buddy, a great player and mouthpiece maker, Scott Hobart, to Black and Hill now. I just think Greg Black's he's still in business. And then got my Gary stuff. So, and I've been Gary, it'll be close to 20 years coming up soon. So that's my mouthpiece spiel. Man, I'm geeking out tonight.
Hey, no, people are digging it. Hey, while you've got your box there, for some of the younger players, can you talk a little bit about what you mean by bite?
My Maynard voice is I like a mouthpiece that I don't like anything that bites me, that hurts my chops, meaning the inner edge of the mouthpiece. So you have the rim, the inner edge where you put your finger. Some mouthpieces, like if you pick a Bach, you run your finger over that, you'll feel a definitive edge on there. And that edge, when I just clean these mouthpieces. I'm holding them with, I'm anal. I have gloves on, so now I got to clean all these mouthpieces again. Oh, well, I guess you guys are worth it. We're having a mouthpiece cleaning party tomorrow. Who's coming over? So you could feel a definite edge in the inner cup, and so that's what I call about bite or purchase. I don't play. I like it very rounded. My mouthpiece, it's flat rim, so it's very stable, and it doesn't have a bite or purchase. Kind of like, which I can't play, the old Jet Tones. It's totally round on a Jet Tone. The GRs are not that way. It is not totally round. He calls it the alpha angle, which is the inner size of the upper cup is your alpha angle. But basically on mine, they're very smooth, and so it's very it's hard to injure yourself by playing hard and pulling back, if that makes sense. So that's what I mean by bite. Did that answer your question?
Yeah.
I guess.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Okay.
Got a couple people chiming in. See, Nick says 1C24 throat and a Schmidt backbore for the lead book. Sounds like a good time.
Sounds like fun.
Noah says my father would have loved to have a box like this when he was in band. He played trumpet when he was back in middle school.
You know, I just put that. It's funny that we're talking about this box. I just finished it. My wife was looking at it. It's been on my downstairs vestibule downstairs for about a month, and I clean too. You know, I do it over the sink. I clean them and then I polish them, and I just got them done literally last week. I just brought them up and I had them. I've been using gloves, but it's taken me this long in my life. I put the trumpet collection together this last year, and the mouthpiece now. So, and I actually have a mute collection too. It's kind of fun, but I'm a geek that way. I guess all trumpet players are geeks. So
yeah, definitely. Let's see.
You're up now. So, you know, how did you you did a whole bunch of big band tours, touring bands, cruise ships. When you moved to New York, how did you come about getting into the New York scene, coming out of the big bands and cruise ships? I remember, when I first moved back to New York too, talking to you, and still to this day you're like that. You were working on different music. I remember you saying, I'm working on my legit playing. I'm trying to do more legit stuff and trying to be more well-rounded. I know that was a big thing in your practice, but really what made you, how did you break into the scene, and how was, obviously it was hard, but
in New York.
in New York, from coming from the road bands and from Florida and tour, from Disney. And
man, I gotta tell you, I keep calling you Smoothie. Do people know about that?
No, tell them. I mean, that's why we're hanging. That's my nickname on Maynard fans. Smoothie.
So many nasty stories that maybe I should let you tell them that.
No, I mean, the original one's from the smooth jazz.
Yeah, I know, but how Sal used to say it. He would call you Smoothie. He'd call you something else. So, 50 years on the road, I can't distinguish the good stories from the dirty stories.
Call me Smoothie. It's all right. It's my nickname.
Because you were playing something they were teasing you about. Of course, it doesn't take much for people to tease you on Maynard's band.
No, man. Well, yeah, go ahead, man.
And in short, I gotta be honest with you. I had a couple of things that were really weird. People said, you have to break in. It'll take a while. And I was out of work for 4 days when I got here.
I remember.
And I got hired to play up in the Westchester Dinner Theater.
Okay.
The same guy who ran the Supper Club. And so.
Oh, New York Supper Club. I remember that. You had the Supper Club gig.
So I was doing a gig. I was basically.
Who was the other trumpet player? Was there? I'm sorry. There was another. Remember, he was.
Oh, a bunch of guys. Kevin Bryan was there for a while, but Pat rest his heart.
Yeah, I love Kevin. There was another. Who was the crazy? There was the crazy dude.
Paul was there for a while. Man, lots of guys went on in that band.
Wasn't there a lead player? Not a lead player. Wasn't he the conductor of the band? Who was the?
Mike Smith. Yeah.
Mike Smith. That's right.
Yeah. Mike Smith.
I forgot about Mike. Oh man,
I remember it.
Wow, right.
But so I started working right away, and then the guys got me in over at that show Fosse.
Yep.
And that conductor liked a bunch of us, so he took us over to do the producers. So everyone's like, it's going to take a long time, but I moved here 5 months later. I had a show, and I was so it's it was hey, but I moved here later in life. I didn't move here.
You're already established.
Yeah, because I've already been on the road. I played with Lou Rawls and with a lot of different people.
Yeah, your name was.
Down here,
everybody knew you when you came, which was wonderful.
I played with different people, but I'm not going to run through that. But so it was easier because I already knew a lot of guys when I got here, and they know you, and I did Ray Charles for a little while, and so it was people needed to know you, especially doing Maynard all the years.
Yeah,
so it was pretty easy. A lot of Maynard guys were in town.
A lot of Maynard guys, but you had again, playing with Lou and a whole bunch of different guys, man. Your reputation already was like, oh well, he can cut it because he did this book, and
plus I have compromising pictures of a lot of important contractors in town. So
you always have to hang it over somebody's head.
That's the trick to the music business. Always find compromising pictures.
Oh, that's funny, Frank. Well, actually, you know what? Hey, Steven, since we're talking about video,
is it clothing optional videos?
Yeah, this one where his clothes is on, right? Is the clothes on, Steven?
Speaking of holding things over people. No, I'm just kidding. This one's got clothing.
Okay.
Well, give us a preface. Was this the All-Star Band? What was this?
Yeah, this was actually
Talk us, Steven.
Blackmail video?
Yeah. This was actually a clip from the Dizzy All-Star Band in 2007.
Dizzy Gillespie. Raul has the shirt on. There it is.
Yes.
Dizzy Gillespie.
And
All-Star Band, okay. And Frank was the lead player on that, right, Frank?
Yes, Frank was the lead player.
I still am, but
Still am. Are you guys actually playing much? Does that come out a couple times a year?
No, John's doing the small band quite a bit. When we do the big band, I do get to play in it.
So how many was it, about once or twice a year that goes out?
It depends. I think sometimes, if the people want big band, because big band's a lot more expensive than the small band, of course. And, when I got in that band, check this out. My first time in the band was,
this is what
John Gaddis was the leader, right?
Yes, sir.
And the trumpet section was Greg Gisbert. Actually, no, I'm sorry. That wasn't it. Was later. It was Randy Brecker.
Okay.
Me, Roy Hargrove, and Claude.
Who was it?
That was the trumpet section.
Who was the?
Claude Raditi.
Oh Jesus! God rest his soul.
Wow.
And
Clyde
Roy,
Hampton. Yeah,
both of his cats.
Clyde Hampton was playing lead trombone.
Wow.
Frank West was playing lead alto.
God rest his soul too.
And Jimmy Heath was playing tenor, and James Moody were both playing tenor.
Oh,
And
man,
Dennis McCarl was playing drums. And Faddis was out front. John Lee was playing. So that was like that. And then Greg Gisbert came on when Roy started doing his thing. And so then Roy came back again, and it's a long story, but it's a fun band. You know, having played next to Randy Brecker, it's like, you know, you have to put your adult diaper on and try not to make too many mistakes, you know?
Oh, I know.
Randy will laugh at you.
Oh, yeah. And he'll smile at you, too. He'll laugh at you, smile at you. Like, get it next time, kid. Yeah. Well, cool. Let's roll that footage, because Frank is holding the hot iron and dealing some trumpet on this one, man. He's doing it.
Oh, yeah.
Here we go.
Yeah.
Frank's a real monster.
Oh, God, come on. That's all overdubbed.
Look at that.
I can't hear it.
You know, like I was talking earlier, every session I go to, not that I was doing a lot of sessions, but I guess in the mid to early, actually, I'm trying to think, early 2000s and even before that, late 90s, there was work. There was some studio work. And,
it was a lot.
Yeah,
it was a lot.
Yeah. You were doing a lot, man. And like I said, everywhere I turned around, I'm like, hey, man, you check out Raul. So, so I remember you doing a lot of sessions. And I remember when I first moved to New York, like a lot of guys didn't really want to play Broadway shows. They wanted to do club dates and sessions. I was doing a lot of sessions and I was doing a lot of club dates, and occasionally I was doing sessions. Occasionally I would try to sub on Broadway, but that's not what I wanted to get into. And then it kind of changed. Everybody wanted a show. So how did you bridge that gap from like being a session guy into, getting into the Broadway scene, and why did you do that?
Well, I don't know how to put it this way.
I'm laughing at you already.
Well,
a good laugh.
When I was back in the 80s, I used to travel a lot to New York. I used to come here, and with different pop singers or Latin singers or bands, and I made connections. I made a bunch of people, back then. I recorded a lot, even that I was touring here, And when I made the decision to move to New York in 1996, believe it or not, the first day that I got out of the plane, I went straight to the studio to record.
There it is. Just like
so and check this out. That album that I recorded, it became a huge hit.
What record was that? What album?
It was a George Lamond. It was a salsa band.
Okay.
But it became a really huge hit in the Latin community. On the radio. Every time you turn the radio, it was the same too. And everybody after that started calling me. Who's that guy? Call that guy.
Yeah.
And then that's how I started basically, and that's how I break, into the New Jersey scene.
Yeah.
People probably think that I only play Latin music, but I'm a legit trumpet player. I came in Venezuela. I didn't play a bunch of Latin music. Pretty much I was in the studio all day, or rehearsing with the Philharmonic, or doing the concerts, or sometimes touring with a pop singer nationally, sometimes internationally. So after a while, in 1998 or 99, a good friend, probably you guys know, everybody knows who's watching, who knows, trumpet players, the late Kevin Bryan.
Yeah.
So I play many gigs with him. So many gigs with him. So
great guy.
Very sweet guy and amazing trumpet player. And that guy actually invited me. He was playing the Full Monty in Broadway.
Yeah, music Broadway.
So he invited me to watch the book, and You say, "Oh, I mean, if you want, I mean, just call me, check the book. You feel like you can play the gig." And I say, "Yeah, sure. So it would be nice, you know."
Yeah.
And I came and learned the book, and then I play a week after, and then and I got designated because this is the most important thing, you know. But Frank knows how that works. So and that was the beginning, you know. That was a transition, you know.
That was a transition.
Yeah, that was a transition. And
Are you guys having that much fun on stage, or is it is it phoned in?
Yes.
It ain't phoned in.
For real.
Man, you know?
It's for real. Well, it's called. That's a really good point. You never phone anything in for two reasons. First and foremost, don't cheat yourself. Don't ever do anything. Don't ever do anything less than your best. And you never know who's in the audience or who might be sitting. Sledgehammer. The reason I got the call for that because I played at Trax in New York, and this guy Jimmy Phelan, his girlfriend at the time was a singer that we were backing. It was myself and Yogi Horton, may he rest in peace.
Oh wow!
So it was a great band.
Sure.
And his wife or girlfriend was a mediocre singer. Might have been pretty good, but she wasn't the reason the people freaking out. It was the band. The band was great. So the guy asked me for my number. Fast forward like 8 years, I get a phone call. I'm like, "Hello? Hey, Mark, it's Jimmy Fallon. Yeah, what's happened? Peter Gabriel's doing a record.
Wow.
You want to come down?" I'm like, "Hell yeah!" So that came out of a gig at Trax.
Oh wow!
You know, it all comes from, you know. I mean, if I think about the club Trax and JP's in Manhattan, more gigs and more opportunities came out of those $50 back and forth gigs.
Sure.
Because we don't phone them in though.
Yeah.
That's your point.
Yeah. And you have 20 people in the audience, you still play. If there's 2,000 people in the audience, it's the same vibe. It's the same vibe.
Correct.
Speaking of vibe.
Well, I got to tell you, I'm exhausted myself, and I got to go talk to my wife before she definitely leaves me. So if I haven't let anyone down, and just so you know, I want to give a little closure here. Some of the stories that we actually told tonight, some of them are true. It's for you to decide.
Only a small percentage.
Yeah. But I just want to say, Carl, I love this forum. Stephen, I love the effort that you put into this, and thanks for reminding me how much we have to be grateful for, and most importantly, how much we have to look forward to, because we're too blessed to be stressed. So let's not forget. So
it means the world to me and Stephen that you came on and spent time with us. And
my pleasure.
I know everybody that's out in webland is happier and graced with the time that you spent with us. But you guys are my best friends, man, and you guys, I appreciate you guys coming and spending time with us and
we have fun, which is the most important.
Just hanging and playing with you guys, man. We got to do it sooner than later.
Yeah, we have to. Well, Frank and me, we played a bunch of gigs, you know, together, but we're missing you, Carl.
Thanks, man. Good to be missed. Hopefully we get to hang out again. You know, and Frank, we'll do our soup soon, and we're going to have to bring Raul and do our soup.
Yeah, Raul, we have to go to Astro Diner and have soup.
Okay.
All right. No soup for you. That's a soup Nazi. We don't go to the soup kitchen. Soup Nazi kitchen. There's a soup Nazi from Seinfeld, right? I used to go there and it was outside, but now we get soup at the Astro Diner. It's killer when I come.
Yeah, Astro, 6th Avenue. It's good.
Yeah, it's cool. It's right in the middle. So, guys, thanks again, man, and you guys be safe and sound, and hopefully we see you sooner than later. And Steven,
everybody's saying thank you in the chat. Since you guys can't see it, a lot of people thank you. Thank you guys. This was a lot of fun.
Guitar. Throw it on the floor with that guitar.
Get your road chainsaw. Get your road kit out. Get your fixing kit. Your crazy glue. Tell them about you got your crazy glue. Like if we break pictures on the wall.
If that was a guitar that used to stay in tune, I would put it back together, but I'm not gonna.
Well, another kit he always takes to the hotel are the lock picks. You never know when you might need to get into another room.
I forgot about that.
You never know.
It's always handy to have lock picks.
Replace a broken lamp.
Very important to always carry with it. All
the lamps and picture frames.
Picture frames. I keep the super glue around and the lock picks.
The first hang, I'll never forget.
No more chainsaws.
And Wayne come over. I had a nice room.
No, the
they come over
chainsaws
and they
are
trash the
way
room. You guys trashed my room. I mean, like pictures are coming off the wall, and chainsaw like a half hour later he comes in. Carl, I got it. And he opens up his suitcase and he's got tools. He got everything. And he put that room together perfect. What's that?
We've learned to clean up after ourselves.
We always clean up.
Yeah, but this was also years ago. Hopefully Weston or the Marriott hotel chain doesn't watch
Some
us.
of the non-visible damage in rental cars is phenomenal.
Don't be gentle. It's a rental.
Check all the boxes.
He ticks all the boxes.
Get all the insurance because it's always worth it.
I got one last question in the chat here. It's from something called Hilton. They're asking for your addresses so they can send an invoice.
Actually, is it the one in Dayton, Ohio?
Ricky's already dimed out. He's already told you where he's at. I'm in the witness.
I'm right across from Cotton Springs State
I don't have
Park,
to give any info.
Central Florida.
Oh, that's great.
At the Bushwood Estate.
The Bushwood.
That's awesome.
Sign it all to Bobby Thrasher's room.
I think it's time to go, guys.
Yeah.
If you're talking about the Hilton in Dayton, Ohio, yeah, that was the one.
Well,
that was a long time ago.
We don't have any fun.
Thanks for having us, Carl. Thanks so much for having
The
us.
statute of limitations are on my side.
Thanks a lot.
Guys, it's been a pleasure to have you guys. I needed to laugh. I laughed with you guys. I miss hanging with you guys. Miss making music with you guys. You guys make everything happen. Love you. And Steven, you're the man for keeping us together here.
Absolutely.
Thanks for driving the ship.
Yeah, thank you guys.
Thank you guys.
Yep.
Thanks.
Thank you.